It's on. We were never meant to live under cages called governments. Our worship systems built on fear and obedience. There's a sacred order to this world, not written by men in robes or judges in courts, but etched into nature, spirit, and consciousness. And when you see through the illusion, the staged wars, the artificial laws, the false idols, something ancient awakens. Today, I'm joined by someone who's been riding that bell for years, reminding people that freedom isn't granted, it's remembered. Crow, welcome to the show. Also, welcome, Rose.
Thanks so much for having us on.
Hey.
So, let's see. You've often spoke about the importance of reclaiming spiritual sovereignty. What does that look like practically, like in today's fucked up world?
Well, that's a tough one, because I think what you're asking depends a lot on the level people find themselves, where they're at, and it gets extreme. I mean, if you really want to go all in, you basically check out of all the illusions. And to do that, you have to grow up all the way, because then you're responsible for you. And you're not waiting for unemployment checks or health insurance or any of these benefits, so-called benefits, that help us maintain the idea of being on the citizenship. I'm not even sure at this point that that's the important question. I think maybe the important question is, are you still buying into basically the mind warp that this place has become? All of the entertainment, all of the news, all of the systems that so many of us opt into are very carefully crafted to have an outcome, and that outcome is control of your perception.
True that, man. I feel like everybody's got their path and their journey and everything, but it seems like a lot of people feel like they're awake when they might not be. And I know, like, I've been in the truth movement, and I've considered myself awake for 15 years at least, maybe 20 years, maybe even more. But then I look back at myself a year ago and I'm like, what an idiot, like, I feel like so many people will, like, they'll become a little bit, they'll learn something or dig into some rabbit hole and feel like, their egos kind of get big, and they kind of think like it's like Dunning-Kruger effect. They get kind of stuck in this zone of not learning anymore. And it's something I've seen, especially in the last, like, 5 years, 10 years, maybe. People thinking that they're, like, way more awake than they really are, and kind of getting stuck and stagnant, still believing all the BS. What do you think about that?
It's a tough, when I was young, I look back and I think, how did I ever make it? How did I ever make it to the age that I am now? But when I look at what the young people are facing now, it's multiples of what I faced. Everyone's got an HD camera in their pocket. Everything is being filmed and recorded. The big issue here is that we now have a young generation that doesn't read books, among other things, and that is a problem. The online footprint as a whole has been controlled. TikTok is a prime example of this. It was taken over. You have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people making reaction videos, and they're all posting the same content that has been pre-approved by the algorithm. And that's why everybody's posting the same stuff. And while they think they're doing their rabbit hole thing, what they're doing is they're spreading fear a lot, and they're remaining stagnant. And you've really got to break free and become your own mind. And the problem with the internet is it tends to influence us into letting others think for us.
Yeah. what do you think, like, what do you think's like the biggest obvious psyop to you right now? Big, like, fake rabbit hole.
Oh, that people are that people are rabbit hole diving.
Yeah.
Well, the most pertinent one recently is the no kings thing.
Yeah.
If you're participating in that, you're playing for the people you claim to not appreciate. If you're against that, you're playing into the hands of the people you claim not to appreciate. If you have any point of view or any involvement on either side, it's just like the political spectrum, the red-blue mind virus. So often we'll be talking to people who consider themselves awake or whatever the proper term is, and they like to down liberals a lot. Well,
Yep.
when you throw the word liberal, that implies that you're conservative, which implies you're somehow influenced by the red movement. That's a mind virus. The political movement was put here to control you, period. And it was also put here to divide us. And almost never do they play the political card, the race card, or the gender card without collecting huge dividends. It works over and over and over.
I think me and Allie were just talking yesterday. There's a big kind of psyopy looking thing happening right now with the Liver King and Joe Rogan. So the Liver King challenged Joe Rogan to a grappling fight, right?
Who is the Liver King? Is he some
Liver King
MMA
is
guy?
a complete scumbag, carnivore diet influencer guy that was doing a bunch of steroids and got caught doing steroids while selling millions and millions of dollars worth of products and stuff to all these people, right? And I was going after Liver King for years, and I would never stick up for the guy if he didn't deserve it. But he was arrested for challenging Joe Rogan to a jiu-jitsu match. He was arrested for terroristic threats. And, yesterday everybody's all, oh, fuck Liver King, all my woke friends.
Wait a minute.
Hold on, guys.
He was arrested for making a statement?
He was arrested for challenging Joe Rogan, yes, to a wrestling match.
Like a psyop to me.
Exactly. And so I noticed that all my super woke friends, or not woke, but based or awake, red-pilled, were all jumping on Joe Rogan, or jumping on Liver King, attacking him for whatever, because everybody just loves Joe Rogan because he's the biggest number one psyop of all time, possibly. And I was just like, wait, guys, like, that's freedom of speech. That's our inherent right.
Yeah. It's not legal to arrest someone. The line for freedom of speech is drawn at injury.
Exactly.
That was established in the court decades ago. You can hurt, and what they're trying to do now is get people to believe that if you insult someone or hurt their feelings, that you've broken the law, which isn't the case. That's the old adage, don't shout fire in a movie theater because someone can get hurt trying to get out of the theater. That is a violation of free speech because you're putting people in danger. But if you walk into that same theater and make a racial slur or some other thing, while it's not polite, while it's not acceptable, it's not a violation of free speech.
Damn right.
I have a screen share if you're interested that I put up there. If you want me to share the red blue mind spell playlist that I made, which includes several episodes, including like a kind of prerequisite city, state, and central banking episode. But this really covers it. And I don't know, Crow, if we should read this from Montague Norman.
Well, that everyone should read this. And what I've noticed, when I put this episode together, I got a direct quote, which is very hard to find these days online. It's nearly been scrubbed. And what it basically is Montague Norman, the governor of the Central Bank of England, who we modeled our central bank partially on, coming in, I think, 1924 maybe, to speak to the bankers of this country. The speech that he puts forward is in unminced, straightforward English, and Rose can read it. What it basically says is, we just set this up so we can take you over.
I want to read it if you don't mind.
If you, I should ask. I'm sorry. This is your show. Do you mind if we read?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So this is Montague Norman, the governor of the Bank of England, who told the United States Bankers Association in 1924, capital must protect itself in every possible way, both by combination and legislation. Debts must be collected, mortgages foreclosed as rapidly as possible. When, through the process of law, the common people lose their homes, they will become more docile and more easily governed through the strong arm of government applied by a central power of wealth under leading financiers. These truths are well known among our principal men who are now engaged in forming an imperialism to govern the world. By dividing the voters through the political party system, we can get them to expend their energies in fighting for questions of no importance. It is thus by discreet action we can secure for ourselves that which has been so well planned and so successfully accomplished.
So you want to know how we arrive here in 2025? Montague told us in 2024.
You mean 1924, Crow?
Oh, there you go. I spent too much time in the 70s.
Yeah, the two-party paradigm is definitely, a reality TV show to distract us from the fact that we have no choice whatsoever here. And the system is ridiculously set up. Even just the idea of owning land or owning property, like as land or a home, you basically need a state to defend that right. So like a lot of people don't get the idea that like land owns us, land steals our freedom. When we say we own something, a piece of land, a home. It's pretty tough to figure out how to defend those rights without states. And when you just get the idea of your hand out of your head of owning land and just using the land, it makes things a lot easier. But yeah, so two-party paradigm's pretty bad. I get blown away when I meet people. I've been, as a vegan especially, you meet a lot of libs, and it's really like I've been in the like from the Ron Paul freedom movement and all that stuff. I've been around so many people. It's so shocking now, and I've been trying to I talk to a lot of liberal vegans on the show, and we do a lot of talking about anarchism and stuff with these people, because it's really hard to be vegan and justify being a part of the system that subsidizes the meat and dairy industry to such a great amount that it's completely propping it up. A lot of people, are like, oh, you're just trying to make us all vegan. And it's like, no, dude, like you're going to be vegan once the government takes away the subsidies that are propping up the system. It's not naturally like that. People like throwing the word natural around, but yeah, the banks, the centralized currencies are really the scourge of the earth. Definitely viruses. They, once you get people convinced that all they need is a house and a car, and people give away 90% of their freedom once they, decide to bend over for the government. And so many of my friends, so many people that I know that claim they're anarchist and have claimed they're anarchist for 10, 15 years, they still have their tax slave job. They still pay their taxes. They still buy new cars every couple years. They're still fully a part of the system and fully allowing the state into their lives. But then they go online and complain about the government and complain about being taxed and stuff. And it's like, bro, you aren't living what you're saying. You're not living what you believe in. It's just like you're a fan of anarchism. There's lots of fans of anarchism because it sounds so cool and everything, but no one really has the balls to actually live it, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think a lot of there in the last few political cycles or what elections, there was sort of like not like a rewriting, but like what's the word? Like a refurbish of the two political parties. So where you have the left sort of like the woke movement, but just the social justice movement, and then the right with the alt-right and with Trump and everything. I mean, we lost a lot of anarchists to the two-party paradigm again, but it's just like the elites, the powers that be, sort of like rehash these old paradigms but in a new way. And I think social media is a huge driver of that through just through all the social media outlets. There's a new sort of wave of both the left and the right that looks cool now and is more it's more modern and it's more hip for the younger generations. And
somehow punk rock turned liberal, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, the anti-establishment music movements turned super establishment or a certain flavor of establishment. But yeah, it's unfortunate to see because there is, while social media and the internet, it does have that algorithm driving everyone's interests in the content they're producing. There is the potential for, like with music, people can get big, bands can get big outside of a record label, but by that same possibility, through those possibilities, you also have a new method of control and controlling people's preferences, ideas, worldviews, and everything. So, but yeah, just like going back to the two-party thing,
kind of molding everything for every individual and not actually giving them reality.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think about AI, Crow?
I don't use it. I won't use it. And I can't even really talk most of the time about what's really going on with it. It's not a good thing. The entirety of the digital system was put together for one purpose, because they knew they could control everybody when it becomes totality. And I mean control everybody everywhere. Maybe the relationship to what people think of the biblical idea, the mark of the beast, where you can't buy, sell, or trade, is far worse than that. But the one example that I do share is when Elon, the actor, bought Twitter.
Damn right.
And the reason he bought Twitter was because he needed an endless data stream to train AI to try to catch up with the other AIs that have endless data streams. But what he did is he changed the logo, and then he named his AI. He named his AI Grok, and he did that for a reason. If you go on a search engine, you can only really find two references. One will be to an old book where it's a demon in the book. The other one is to a video gaming a video game where Grok was a demon. But what Grok actually is it's an old demon from Babylonian times. So while AI can never be conscious, they are tapping consciousness with AI. It's just not what you think. And the problem with AI is if you interact with it to any great degree, even if you don't, it will know more about you than you will ever know. We have old episodes, maybe Rose can reference them, where this was before AI was open in most people's mind. I think a lady named Shoshana Zuboff put together the first book. She's very mainstream, but she had access to all the boardrooms all the way to China. And she didn't do a bad job. She said a lot of true things about AI, not what I just said, but over and over in each of the boardrooms, they said this could be dangerous. They all agreed, and then they act like they didn't say it, and they moved on.
Yeah, that was so Shoshana Zuboff, 2019 Surveillance Capitalism book, and we covered that episode 165 and 168.
One of the things you've got to realize is that AI gives a power that is unknown to our fake history on any level. It gives them basically a time machine. they can take data on anyone they want to concentrate on because your data footprint is so extreme. They can predict to a 98% certainty the day you will die, where you will be, the minute of the day that it happens, what kills you, and what group of people that puts you in. This was made fun of in a recent movie with Meryl Streep. I forget the name of it, where all the rich people can pay this AI guy to find out when they're going to die. So they're referencing exactly what I just said. So she decides to do it, and they tell her, you know, a gobbledygook's going to kill you. I forget the name of what's going to kill her. And she says, well, what's a gobbledygook? And the guy says, well, we searched that. There's no such thing. There is no reference to that word. We don't know. Well, they all get on a spaceship to leave, fleeing Earth, because once again, it's an apocalyptic movie where the Earth's got to be destroyed, to get that in your mind, because our minds control, you know, our minds contribute to the reality. So like the apocalyptic message is there. They arrive on the new planet, get out, and there's these giant, gorgeous birds that you've never seen before. And she walks up to one and it stomps her out dead. And the guy who made the AI looks at someone else and says, I guess we know what a gobbledygook is now. So think about what's just happened. Not only did the word not exist, there was no reference because it was on a different planet. And yet the AI was able to work out what was going to happen in a place no one had ever been before. And that is the level of power that is accessible by people in control right now.
Is there is there a way to engage with it, like as tools to help us, or is it just completely like an anti-natural thing, like inherently?
Well, I guess I can answer that like this. Let's put 100 people in a room and give them all a knife. While we know that 1% of the people in there are mass murderers, but everyone gets a knife. So 99% of the people are going to do what you're supposed to do. You're going to cut their meals, make art. They're going to do things with a knife. But one guy in there, he's going to do something wrong with the knife. And in the situation we're talking about, the mass murderers in control of the AI. So yeah, you can engage. There's so many things that I know I can game it. I know that I can game it to my benefit, but I'm not opening that door. There's so many things I'd like to ask.
Sorry, there's this episode that we just restreamed recently that really ties into this idea. And I'm so glad this came up this way, because we just restreamed the episode that we did 385 on the Bushmen of the Kalahari. And they had no concept of ownership. They lived completely in step with nature, to the point where when they found out that quote unquote civilized people couldn't hear the stars, they were so sad for us and said they must be so sick. So that's what happens when you live completely in aligned with nature. And then going back to the idea of AI used as a tool, I've just was talking about this with people about how if you understand that AI is not intelligent and that it's just a glorified search tool, and you're smart enough to use your intellect to ask the right questions to make it be your servant with your knowledge to just do things faster, it could be used in a positive way. However, every time that you make that choice to utilize the AI for your advantage, you're contributing data to the ultimate system that one day will be used against us. So my metaphor to that is, let's say everyone starts preparing themselves with weapons for the so-called zombie apocalypse. But then when the zombie apocalypse comes, the people who didn't defend themselves enough or are not strong enough, all of the stronger people are going to steal those weapons, and they're going to be the ones that benefit from the knives that those people procured with all of that care.
Interesting. So getting back to these bad actors, like, do you think like real freedom is possible without like morality? And what do you think about natural law?
The only example of truth we have in this world is from the natural environment, the creation, as I'll call it. That is truth. That's the only measure of truth we have here in this world of duality. And when you say it's a world of duality, if you're correct, it's almost like an oxymoron, right? but in a way it's not. We're familiar with the system. If there's something black, there's something white. If I want to know what fun is, then I have to know what not having fun is to be able to appreciate it. We live in a world of duality. What I think happened for me some decades ago was I began to realize that there's two options here. I die, it's lights out, that's it. There's nothing. And I couldn't imagine that to be true, because that means that what I'm doing right now is completely pointless, unless the reason I'm doing whatever I'm doing now is for someone else's benefit, for some entertainment or whatever it might be. So I realized that there are laws from the rules of nature, which are the only truth we have, like energy can't be destroyed. Well, I'm energy. My consciousness is energy. I began to realize that my consciousness precedes everything that I will ever experience. Our consciousness helps to form what is real in the world, which is why there are so many apocalypse movies and so much hatred and the gender gaming. That's all to do with getting your mind in a direction that contributes to the reality they want. But at the end of the day, I realized I'm not going to just evaporate into nothing when I die, which means the amount of time that I spend here in this life is less than a drop in the bucket. And when you begin to frame it that way, you begin to realize that that means you've got to do the best you can do. So what does freedom look like? Doing the best you can do. Not giving up on the things you know to be true, correct, important. Those are the things that you try to accomplish while you're here. Get as far as you can. In other words, if I'm going to go on after this, then what's going on right now around me, this open kind of spiritual war that we see all around us right now, it's almost like an invitation to take one of two paths, one towards darkness and one away from darkness. So what's freedom look like for me in this world? Staying on the path that leads me away from darkness.
Word. What do you think about movements or individuals using, natural law language and moral language while promoting materialism, violence, and moral relativism?
We covered a lot of law episodes, and the more we did, the more I realized the problems with it. So we made some rules. One of the rules finally became any legal precept that we cover has to be repeatable every time. It has to have been successful, and then it has to be repeatable. And we narrowed in on ways that are proven to work. But then the problem became the human beings that interacted with it. We started getting all these emails back. I'm in trouble. I listened to your show and now I'm in trouble. And, then I began to realize that I'm not going to cover law. I may do it in an overarching way, but when people ask about it now, I say, study for a year. You go ahead and study for a year. And if you think you got an idea to do something at the end of that time, I'd be happy to talk with you. But the world that we live in now is so affected by the internet, which is instant gratification. For anyone to spend a year at anything right now is almost laughable. So when I'm talking to people, I'm in essence saying, I'm reasonably sure you're going to walk away from this and I'm never going to hear anything from you again, which means you weren't ready to go deal with the legal ideas that we were laying down. And that's the sad reality of where we are right now.
So, you've talked about like Hollywood kind of brainwashing people with spells and stuff. What do you think's like the most, like super egregious example of that that's happened recently?
Recently, the most egregious version's been going on my whole life. But recently, I guess I can't answer that because I can't watch new movies. My wife and I are to a point where it's almost too much work for us to find a movie we're willing to watch.
Yeah,
and invariably, that is an old movie, because even though there's programming in it, most of the programming is out of time. But it's not so violent. It's not a Tarantino movie or something like that. But the most egregious thing for me is they've convinced us not to be I'm going to use the word human being, which is the wrong word, but I don't have a substitute. So they've taught us that a human being is something that it's not. And in one of the ways, I use this as the example. If I put you on a continent that didn't have electricity, had all the food, water, beauty, everything you needed to be comfortably alive, but nothing modern, no entertainment, no devices, none of it, and you lived your whole life around, say, 500,000 other people on that continent, in your lifetime, how much violence would you see?
Not much.
Actually, if I took you right now and removed you from all entertainment and information systems, and you just cruised around your general area you live, how much violence would you see in a lifetime?
Not
in other
a
words,
lot.
do you feel like it's safe to say that probably about 98% of all the killing, violence, torture, rape, and everything else I've ever seen has come to me through Hollywood?
Yeah.
There it is. And what that has done is convinced you that humans are perpetually violent and hateful. And once that is put in your mind and a million other minds, the old Hermetic maxim is actually true regardless of wherever it came from. It's provably true that mind precedes all. And that's further established in the idea of the 100th monkey. So many people say, well, I don't care what they do with my data. Why should I care? I'm not doing anything wrong. Or I don't care if I wake up. You know, they say all these things. Well, consider what we know to be true through the 100th monkey. These dudes come along with potatoes and they start feeding monkeys on an island. And the monkeys love the potatoes. So they start throwing them in the sand. So they teach a couple of the monkeys how to wash the potatoes. Over time, the monkeys start teaching other monkeys how to wash the potatoes so they can eat them too. Well, what they found is once 100 monkeys are reached, every monkey on the island all of a sudden knows. Yeah. But what shocked them is when they went to the next island to do it again, and every monkey on that island already knew because the 100 from the other island had already achieved it, showing what it means to say mind precedes all. There's a mind stream there, which we have our mind stream for human beings. Maybe to some degree it's influenced by animals' mind streams. I don't know. Probably for the Bushmen of the Kalahari, who can still relate to nature, it is. And so when you consider the power in what I've just communicated, now think about what Hollywood has put in your mind for your entire life, but not just you, everyone you know everywhere.
Who's that? Rupert Sheldrake? What's it called?
Morphic resonance.
Morphic resonance. He talks about how what is causing that transfer of information across oceans and stuff, that we're all
what does he say it is? Does he agree that there's a mind stream that gets tapped?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's his. He might be the guy who kind of came up with that even way back in the day. He was buddies with this was a topic we were into last year.
Definitely something it's been observed, but he sort of like defined it and sort of like
put a name on it.
Compiled situations of that happening, where he talked about the formation of crystals. So in a lab somewhere, I forget which country, these scientists were able to
make a new crystal.
Yeah, like basically you use whatever material and elements, arrange them in a way to make a new crystal formation, a new pattern. You look under a microscope, it looks a certain way. And so they overseas in some other lab, when they go to form that crystal, it formed right away. And so it's like there's some sort of, even in like things that we like in material objects, let's say, not even talking human beings or other animals, there's some sort of like template. Once something is manifested in this realm, and that template is it's set, it's there, so
the door is unlocked.
Things kind of more easily form into that. But that's what he coined it as.
That is an awesome description of the spiritual maxim from people who are involved in what I call the mind sciences, or basically high level meditation that goes back millennia. What they put forward is exactly what you said, exactly what you just said for crystals, which, by the way, are the most stationary form of life, of Christ consciousness. Once Christ consciousness was attained, it was now possible for any other being to have a shot at it. But before that happened, it was an impossibility. And this is the big deal. This is the division tactics that are in, you know, you guys just mentioned how they modernized the political parties, but do you remember part of how they did that with the gender games? They did things that would piss off one side or the other at the max, like everyone come into the country, we don't care who you are. By the way, there's not just two genders, and just as much heat as they could throw.
Gay marriage.
To divide us. And every time they play the politic card, the race card, and the gender card, they get dividends. And what did they get? Well, you guys just said it. They revamped their political mind virus to be a little more palatable for another suckered generation.
They're using like the dark hermeticism against us, basically.
Exactly.
But yeah, going back to Hollywood and movies, holy crap. I remember when I was a kid, what movie? Oh my god, the cowboy movie that I liked so much.
Tombstone.
I went and saw that movie so many times in the theater.
I'll
it
be
was
your
so
Huckleberry.
cool. Yeah, it's actually you want to hear something crazy? It's actually Hucklebearer, which is a pallbearer. Everyone's had it wrong. It was never
right?
Huckleberry. Yeah, it was Hucklebearer. Yeah, that's
that
crazy
makes more
thing.
sense.
Yeah, totally makes more sense.
Like,
Hucklebearer. He just said it with such an accent that and just everyone's gotten it wrong over the years. It's super wild. But anyway,
well,
Hollywood.
I actually appreciate knowing that.
Yeah, me too. That's like the best thing I've learned today.
Yeah.
That's got to make it into a blog. How do I squeeze Hucklebearer in there, huh?
We'll figure it out, bro. We won't forget.
Yeah. So Hollywood has a great way of convincing you to root for the wrong side, man. That movie is fucked up. All those guys are psychopathic former cops that were trying to take guns away from a city and then killed people over it. And they, you know, as you're watching the movie, and you know, this was watching it, you know, after 10 years of being, you know, in the freedom movement, then watching it again, just being like appalled that I used to like that movie. And Hollywood has this way, and Hollywood will also, it will make you root for the right side, even though in your daily life you don't believe that thing. And it makes you worship cops. Hollywood has completely brainwashed everyone that police are all good and that police are actually fighting crime and not just enforcing policy
and collecting money. You know, they just did the grandest version of what you just described with a movie called Endgame. And when did Endgame come out? In 2019, right before COVIDius Break the World Minimus. And what people don't recognize is the Avengers represent the fallen angels. They're not the good guys.
Interesting. Yeah.
It happens over and over. Then they'll put up a show like I just heard.
It's all based on
there's a show on HBO, or was on HBO or Showtime, about a mass murderer dude. And they get everyone, what's it called? It's it just came out again, which is how I know, because I saw a reference to it. It's a guy's name and he kills people. He's a murderer, but they get the whole show so you're rooting for a dude who basically goes out and murders people.
Yeah. Was that the redheaded serial killer guy show that everyone loves?
Yes. I think
Dexter.
Yeah. That's it. And then, well, don't get me started on the name Dexter, but yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. Everything is a mind warp. It's even worse than that. If you take a show that has been so influential, like Jon Stewart. How influential was Jon Stewart? Well, they brought him back because no one could fill his boots. Yeah. So that show, from the moment they push go to the last joke, is packed with Tavistockian psychological manipulation from start to go. And if you begin to look into it, it's shocking. And some of the tools they're using are shown to be 90% effective. Wow. And so you're not missing many when you say this thing, then immediately a joke is said and the whole audience laughs, and the tribal mentality forces your brain in a certain way. It's crazy. And this is how the majority of television is put together. But don't blink, folks, because now AI is helping craft these things. Now AI is helping to police it in real time. There are server farms in this world that have hundreds of thousands of cell phones on a wall. I've seen pictures of them.
I've seen it too.
This is, whenever you are on social media now, it's been shown that roughly 60% of all the information transactions are bot transactions, even if you think you know who you're speaking to.
Yeah, I worked for I don't know if you guys know who Luke Radowski is. I worked with Luke Radowski for a couple years, and I ran his We Are Change website and his YouTube. And I firsthand started seeing patterns in comments, and I started pasting, I started copying these comments, and I started seeing the same comments word for word, letter for letter, over and over and over again. And it was mostly coming out of the pro-Israel groups. And I was pretty shocked. That was my first, I was handed access to a lot of big platforms back in the day because I was working as a journalist, and just seeing the amount of bots and honeypots and like literal chaos agents, around these guys, I was just shocked. Because it's like you think about, oh yeah, I'm on a list, all that stuff, but then like once you actually see it, I ended up getting a dossier of Department of Justice counterterrorism unit that was looking at me because of the pro-peace activist I was doing, activism I was doing back in the day. So it's really scary, once they're shown all these, if you ever get these examples, once you actually see the real ones. But the comment, the walls of phones, who knows how many people we're talking to that are even real in YouTube land, and on Facebook.
I don't do it. I don't communicate on any platform other than there's new content on my private server called CROW777 Radio. I do not communicate for a few reasons. I don't put my image out, but I'll tell you a little trick I learned years ago. I used to be big into the webmaster thing and everything digital. I actually I got my first degree was from what they called IT. It was the first place that offered it. It was internet technology is what IT meant then. But here's what I learned years ago. When you see a comment section that you control, and the first time you see a subversive or a negative comment, you don't comment back and you block it. The faster you block it, better. And you do it every time, and you will notice a change in how the bots start treating your platform. And most people have been trained that you can't block people. You're stopping free speech. They have this mindset that if you block people, you're somehow the villain, which is a bit laughable. There's a whole internet where you can go drop F-bombs all day long if you want. But what I notice is if you pick them off consistently, there is a massive change on how much bot influence comes onto your platform.
Interesting. So, what do you think trauma, like what part does trauma have to do with the mass brainwashing of so many people?
Oh, it's key. Trauma is key to everything evil in this world because of the psychological effects that trauma provides. As an example of this, you've heard of the 27 Club, I'm guessing? Uh-oh, did we lose our host?
Oh no, we're here. Yeah, we've heard of that.
Okay, the camera just went out. Anyhow, anytime you ever hear of a famous musician that ODs on drugs or kills themselves, you should immediately say poppycock. So many of the big musical names have faked their deaths in a way that gets maybe I'll say a minor level of trauma for all the people that loved them and followed them, but it's done intentionally. And if you begin to go look at how often it's done, you begin to realize how big a tool it is. And, we probably can't or won't even speak about, things like adrenochrome. That's all based in trauma.
Yeah, totally. And even like there was the rapper, I'm just thinking of like the latest pop culture. There's been some since, but one of a musical artist, XXX Tentacion, he was like a younger guy SoundCloud rapper, and he was killed, and there was surveillance footage. I remember even watching it and being like, oh my god, it's so horrifying. But yeah, it's such a trauma manipulation.
The need, what would be interesting to go get. So say we picked the top 20 most popular actors in the 1980s, 1990s, and 1970s and 1960s, and then looked at what percentage of them had some crazy, horrific death. And you begin to see how that public perception is manipulated, because how many people have you known in your life? How many of them have died? How many of it has been a really tragic, terrible situation? Like they were murdered, or, they killed themselves, or, over and over and over and over. But when you look at famous people, it's like the most of them you hear about. Look at Gene Hackman.
Remember, I was just thinking of that. Yeah.
Gene Hackman just died. He was 90 something, and it becomes this big, who done it. And by the way, the dog died, and by the way, his wife died. And
what?
Guys, how many people do you know cried over Kobe in the helicopter?
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh! Yeah, so that yeah.
He's not dead.
I went to work that day. I was going to work, and I'm like, what is wrong with everybody that I see? And I walk in to my work back in the day, this restaurant, and everyone's watching the TV, and I'm like, did 9/11 just did some crazy thing that happened? Yeah, oh, Kobe died. And it's like,
they acted like it was 9/11. Yeah.
Who cares? The guy had a great life, and you didn't know him.
Think about what you just said. You could act before you even knew what the trauma was. You could see the physical manifestation all around you. I just saw a comment. Pretty sure Elvis died. My comment to that would be, for all you know, he's running the country right now dressed as Trump. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm not kidding, by the way. I'm not being facetious here. That is literally how bad it is. I once saw an old MGM reel. God, I wish I would have recorded it back in the day. And in the 1930s, they had filmed in the late 1930s, I think, maybe it was the early 40s. It was black and white. They did this tour of one of the MGM places and showed all the so-called death masks they had of every famous person that worked there. But they were showing levels of latex back then that would blow your mind, the level at which they were doing the latex. And it's funny, too, if you look at something like The Wizard of Oz, okay, that's 1939. Look at the makeup they pulled off. Okay, now go look at some of the makeup in the 80s. They intentionally went backwards to try to hide. But then they turned around and showed us Mission Impossible in, I think, the late 60s, where they were literally showing you what they do with latex and personalities.
I think there's something about super HD TVs too. I think that there's some weird stuff they did with resolutions. I don't know. Like there's resets that happen, and they take the technology back and start doling it back out in 180p, and then it's almost like a marketing thing.
I agree with you. I agree with you totally. When the first real big when the hertz rate on television started going well above 100, which basically, just so you know, the hertz rate is how many times a second that image is blinking in your face. So a hertz rate of 250 is blinking 250 times a second in your face. But when they first came out, it gave me a headache. There was like this hyper reality, like it was almost more real than my experience of what real was. It really bothered me for quite a while. It made
stuff look like crap.
No doubt.
And then like these new TVs, they make it's like you watch them and you don't know what's real anymore. So they're able to serve us up this deep fake stuff and make it look even better with this ultra HD and it like blurs the lines of what's real. And people, it's with all this AI and deepfake stuff, it's completely in line with that stuff to just completely be used continuously to control, because we're not going to know what's real anymore. Some of these videos we're seeing that are fake are freaking amazing. You would never know. And it's just like, how are we going to know in the future what is a genuine bit of content and what is completely made up?
You can't. There's only one way. You can't. I am with you 1000%. I'm with you. And that's not even possible. So I used to make up little laws for myself to help me think about things. So there was all this UFO nonsense and kerfuffle going along. So for myself, I made up what I called the law of HD. Basically what it said was anything that can be filmed in high def will be filmed in high def.
Mm-hmm.
But then AI arrived. And when AI arrived, that entire idea was undermined.
Everything's blurry again.
Yeah, no longer useful. So I had to go back and rewrite it. So now what it says is anything that can be filmed in HD will be, but you have to know the source and the authenticity beyond a shadow of a doubt for it to be used as evidence of any kind, because we can no longer distinguish. It's not possible.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of I'll see stuff like a lot of these rocket launches, and it'll be all blurry, and it's like, how the fuck is this blurry? How does Elon Musk not have $300 to put a GoPro near the launch pad?
At least he could film with a Burbank potato, right?
Yeah. And it's just like, wait, everybody's showing these videos around, or they're so obviously computer generated that it's so infuriating.
That's how you know it's real. It looks so fake.
They're so obviously fake, and I'll show it to people. They're all, what do you mean, man? How do you know it's fake? And it's like, by looking at it. Like, are you insane?
She hit it on the head. That's how you know it's real, when it looks so fake.
Exactly. It's double speak from the guy himself. So UFOs. To me, UFOs are kind of like the oldest conspiracy that was forced onto the public. Right. And I used to be way into the flat earth stuff. I've kind of become somewhat agnostic about all that stuff because it can be very time consuming and can be very distracting. And but anyway, so the UFO thing, because I see our whole system being set up on scarcity, right? So obviously the powers that be want us thinking that we're in a closed loop system and we only have so many natural resources and we only have so much, everything is so scarce. Land, property, everything has value because it's scarce.
Thanos was right.
Yeah. And I think, I feel like the alien conspiracy fuels that scarcity conspiracy. I feel like there's more land out there. I don't know what shape it is. I feel like there's way more land out there that they're maybe keeping from us.
That's the only logical conclusion anyone can draw if they look at what we've been handed logically. And not just a little more, like probably more than we know about now.
More. Yeah.
Yep.
I think that.
The UFO thing has been a boon. Very few people realize that right around the old Roswell, we even got the language we needed, right? So within 2 weeks of Roswell about to happen, someone coined the term flying saucer, right? So language was ready to go.
Perfect timing.
But here's the example I always use, because you can't know everything. You can't always be right, but you can make decisions that don't pull you in the wrong direction by believing in crap you shouldn't believe in. And for some people, once you believe a thing, it's real hard to unbelieve it. But here's my example. I've been walking for 10 days into the desert, and I've got plenty of water, but I'm looking for a place. And lo and behold, the 10th day, I am so far from civilization, I see a little building. I'm all, praise the Lord, there's a building. So I head to the building. And as I'm coming up, I realize there's no footprints around the building. There's nothing that looks like anyone's been here in forever. So I go inside, and there's a table. And on the table, there's a damn peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Who put the peanut butter and jelly sandwich there? Had to be a human being, right? We know that human beings make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We know that beings like I just described are in this world because I'm one. We know that they tend to use buildings like the one I'm standing in. So the only logical conclusion I can draw is that somehow a human being put this peanut butter and jelly sandwich here in the middle of nowhere, right? But now there's the other side. Someone's going to say, no, clearly an alien did that. Right? Clearly an alien materialized this peanut butter and jelly sandwich, except we have no experience, no example, no witness, no nothing to attach that statement to other than belief, which is the enemy of knowing. So in the peanut butter and jelly sandwich is the lesson that I learned with regard to all UFOs. Those are man-made until I see direct evidence otherwise or shake three-fingered hand.
Yeah. Damn right. Awesome. What do you think was like the most important skill for someone to be perfecting right now in this time of inversion?
Love. The highest resonance. Love. You're only going to be here for a drop in the bucket if I am correct in assuming that I don't just cease to be at death. And I think we have plenty of examples if we read very old stuff that demonstrates we do go on from this lifetime. We're probably here to learn and to grow up. And as my friend Fortune says, this is a very difficult boot camp. It's quick and it's very harsh. But at the end of the day, you're going to be going somewhere after this. Do you want to be on a path that's going towards darkness, or do you want to be on a path that's going towards light? Probably, if truth be told, with everything that I've studied in my life, the most important thing anyone could ever engage in this lifetime is to try to make it to unconditional love as your state of being.
Word.
Said the highest frequency.
You don't get Iran and Israel, and you don't get kings, no kings, and you don't get an actor wearing orange hair for a president, and you don't get any of this at that level. And not only that, mind does precede all reality. And from what I have witnessed in this world, the people who have raised their frequency perceive a lot more than we do. Human beings, what filming the sun has done for me is forced me to recognize that human beings are damn near blind. The electromagnetic spectrum, and the little tiny sliver in the middle we call the visual spectrum, is all we can see. And that is 0.003% of the entire spectrum. Bees see more than we do, for crying out loud. And when you begin to realize just how close to blind we are, and you begin to recognize that a spiritually advanced being starts to perceive and detect a lot more, maybe we begin to realize that the spiritual learning that we do here is among the most important learning, if not the most important.
Damn. Word.
Maybe.
Might as well end it on that, man. That was an hour. Awesome. Great meeting you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having us on. You still with us, Rose?
Yeah, no, I think it's been.
We didn't even get a chance to show them anything. We were going to show you some
Rose.
of it.
Let's see some stuff.
You want to show them some
we
stuff?
We got plenty
Rose?
of time.
Yeah, I mean, I totally wanted to show the solar telescope work that CROW has been capturing. I don't know if you're on.
I definitely want to see this. Oh, do you know of a YouTuber named J Tolan Media?
I don't. I don't surf the web very much.
Okay, he's a guy who does. What's that?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he does. So he has all these. He does photography from certain places using like really gnarly equipment, but he uses solar filter. Is that what it is?
Like
Infrared cameras, and he'll go up in planes, and he'll go up the top of mountains, and he'll go down to the beach, and he measures everything.
Wow.
And some of if you definitely should check out his channel. It's some of the most beautiful shit I've ever seen in my life, and interesting. And he's kind of he's a Russian rocket scientist, like legit gnarly, super smart guy.
Smart guy.
But if there's anyone on YouTube that you should check out, you should check out him. It's J Tolan Media.
I'll write it down. And
but
I don't surf, so I will.
But the video, his content it's some of the most beautiful photography I've ever seen. But he's a gnarly, like he questions everything. He's gone through and measured everything and has debunked all the mainstream stuff. And he barely has any followers, and like he's just this cool dude who's like die hard.
I'll check him out.
Let us try to blow your mind with.
Yeah, no, I definitely. It sounded like a similar thing. So, but we're totally into that kind of stuff.
I'm not trying to be competitive. There's room for all the photographers and people who want to observe nature. We want to promote everyone look up to the sky. And if anyone has the wherewithal to do things, whatever you can, whether it's long distance photography or this kind of hydrogen alpha solar work, Crow, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go slowly through the images, and you can kind of narrate a little bit, and then I'll get to the video, and they're mute, so you'll see that the videos are starting. And then once I play the two videos of the CME and the sunspot, I'll switch to the videos that I made. Does that sound good?
All right, bird's the word.
All right, well, here's the first one that you can start with.
So this is the solar disk blacked out. So you're just looking at what's called the prominences. It's shot in the hydrogen alpha wavelength, which is at the very far side of the visual spectrum in red. Filming the sun is by far the hardest thing that I've ever filmed. Have you guys seen Shoot the Moon?
No.
Well, you guys need to email us. We'll give you a login because you can get it for free on the site. You need to see Shoot the Moon.
We need stuff to watch.
This is the solar surface. The image has been inverted. Those sunspots are black to our eyes, but when you invert it, you can see the 3D nature of what's going on. Most solar guys invert many of the images. This, again, is inverted. These are just stills. This is actually a tornado that I got interrupted filming. It's a quarter disc shot.
You film these?
Yeah.
What? Damn.
Nice arch prom.
Jesus Christ.
This one's over sharpened on purpose to kind of show you the detail that's down in there.
Yeah.
So please explain what about these images are fake and what are not, and get them set up for the animations. Because if they haven't seen this, we know they haven't seen the video, and it's going to blow their minds. So get ready.
All right. So there's two things. Whenever you see a sunspot that is white, you know that during processing the image was inverted, which is fine. You invert the image so you can see how 3D everything looks. Typically, I run both, uninverted and inverted. The only thing that is fake in any of these solar images is the color. I could have made it purple, pink, or anything. I shoot in black and white because it gives me many millions of shades of gray to capture data. These are all see how they're black now? This is not inverted, but they don't look quite as 3D. This is how our eyes would see it if we could.
So the black spots are like storms?
It's a sunspot. It's actually a hole. And I'll explain to you after we look. If you want me to, I'll explain you what I think the sun is currently.
Oh, I can see the holes. Yeah.
The mainstream claims it's a heavy magnetism and all kinds of other things. These are some of the prints. People wanted me to make the prints available, so I make these that people can get, and you can print them up to like 50 or 60 inches. And people have printed them. They're gorgeous on the wall.
Oh, I know that.
And if anyone listening does get these images and you print it and hang it, please send us an image of it in your home.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That is beautiful shit.
By far the hardest thing to film that I've ever It is
Wow,
so
really?
difficult to get good images. But we're going to run some video here so you can see the motion. So this is
What?
that's a minor CME
Yikes.
that I filmed in real time.
It's
That's
like
called
a
CME.
volcano burping.
Right, energy releasing. The mainstream would tell you that is bigger than the Earth, which is poppycock. This is a sunspot animated. What do you see there? That is an animated sunspot with all those little tendrils
Episode
going
CEO
down
Run
in.
with Eric Dollard, we explain.
Looks like a sea anemone.
Kinda, yeah. And each one of those little filaments that goes down in, if you get the right angle, you can see them flashing down in there. In my view, I'm looking at a hollow shell, and that hollow shell is drawing energy from counter space. It's not a nuclear furnace.
So Crow, you never really this is just in one of the member videos on the website for members, but one of my favorite close-up images of a sunspot that you shared shows these little sparks inside the sunspot.
Yep.
And I couldn't help but it reminds me of that spark of fertilization. And that's why I always feel like the sun is like an egg and it's hollow, and inside of it seems to be these explosions of vibrations and frequencies that are then being emitted to us, divine analog information coming from this thing.
The sun provides life, and it is conscious. The sun is conscious, and it is directly related to our consciousness. And as the age turns here, the era shifts, there's a binary to this that I discovered in 2015 and filmed. It's in the movie Shoot the Moon, but I'm trying to get footage of it now that it's gotten closer. But in the ancient Indian material, they claim that there is a binary to our sun, and when it gets closer to us, our consciousness explodes upward. Then when it gets further away, we go into dark ages, like what we're coming out of now.
So
this is a sunspot close-up.
It looks like a bird's nest almost.
This is over sharpened.
Yeah.
There's now 16 solar investigation videos on the website, but I am going to play you the most astounding. Actually, he's made better ones that are more crisp since then, but this is still my favorite 2-minute and 30-second clip. And there's audio of him that I can't remove. So you'll just have to listen to him when he talked about it here. So here we go.
Sick.
And we'll run it through once. This is a double looping prom. You can see the total magnetic curvature of everything going on.
What?
And that brown snaking thing over the surface is actually called a filament, but that is part of the prominence in a view that doesn't allow you to see it, like flames. And as we run this out, I'm going to zoom in on a couple points so that you can see this conscious luminary doing what it does. All right, let's take a couple views and see what we can see here. I've zoomed a little on the prompt.
It sends it out and pulls it back in.
And it's a magnetic loop is always going to be the defining characteristic of a big scope like I have. If the seeing is not good, the size of the scope amplifies that. Right now, I get beautiful windows of excellent seeing for the first 2-3 hours. The problem is it's very difficult to refocus in the middle of that, but I have a plan to deal with that. Now here you're looking at the filament, and you can actually tell that it's part of that prominence that you're looking at, or connected to it anyway. And in a minute I'll shift over. If I had widened the field of view, there was a whole other set of prominences going on the side.
Damn, I want to do this.
When I shift the view here, you'll be able to see the solar rain and a few other things. And one of the things I'm going to do here is speed up the clip significantly. There's the edge of what was going on off frame. That thing was looping back into another prominence on the other side. I just didn't want to get too greedy with my field of view. I wanted to ensure I could pull this off. Also, the surface detail, you can tell that needs work. That should be a lot more defined and clear than it is. But here, when I speed it up, I'll speed it up to about 250 or 250%, and then I'll jack it up to 1,000%. This is speeded a little, but in a minute when it goes black and white, when it goes black and white, you'll see the motion. Pay attention. Of the sun. It shows you the motion of the sun in hydrogen alpha. Now, I know people look in white light and they see something different because the sunspots don't move the same way all the time.
Here it comes. There's really quick.
Tilting
You can
forward,
see the
tilting
sun
back.
spinning forward and back. So
It's
this
like it's
prominence will
transparent.
actually go all the way around, and in 24
Kinda.
hours-ish, be right
What?
back about where it is now. And that's what you can tell if you
This
back
is how
it
I
up
capture
and look
it
at the
without the
1000%
color that I
run. You can
assign.
Okay. That is just crazy.
I have a lot more that I could share, but we just shared it all on a recent live stream on Crow's YouTube channel. If people want to see more, and they can just use their scroll through to the part where we're obviously showing the stuff.
So I should say, because of censorship, which hit me hard and in the open in 2017, they deleted my YouTube channel with no warning, and then they put it back with an algorithm that restricts searches on CROW777. I put everything on a private server where we have absolute free speech. The members of CROW777 Radio currently have 16 custom-made solar research videos that they get for free just for being members, and they have exclusive access to all my solar work. I am determined to get footage with my Gigantor scope of the second sun this season. I am doing everything I can to pull that off. It will be a big day, but for people who can't imagine there's a second sun, in 2016, one of the chief engineer astronomers from the SLU Observatory was doing a live stream showing the transit of Mercury across the sun for young people, but he had a problem. The second sun was almost kissing our sun at that point, and he couldn't get it out of frame or hide it. So he basically said on air, and you could still see this on YouTube, guess you're all wondering what that is? That is our second sun. NASA knows all about it. They just don't want you to know about it. I discovered it in 2015 and filmed it and included it in Shoot the Moon, the film that is also free to members of CROW777 Radio. That film has won 10 awards in the world. Last 2 came from India.
See, we should be talking about the footage that you filmed that there's a clip of at the end of the movie and on YouTube. But if I were you, I wouldn't even bother mentioning the guy from the SLU Observatory, because I tried contacting him over and over again on Twitter, and so have many others. He will not respond, and so I feel like he's just going to say, "Oh, I was just being sarcastic." Obviously, you guys
I don't
a joke.
I don't care. He said what he said, and the reason he's in a bad position, he got a lot of heat for that. I don't blame him if he doesn't want to talk to people. He's an astronomer, and astronomers believe what they believe. They believe what they were taught to believe. But he said what he said, and anyone who listens to that and think he's kidding, I would remind them he's streaming to young people to show them the transit of Mercury. And I don't, it doesn't make any difference. I've filmed it. I know it's there. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes.
That's what I'm saying, is people should watch your footage, which anyone can contact us and I'll send a link.
So that's really cool. You're actually giving something of value outside of your, your words when you sign up. So many content creators just like, oh, here's some exclusive content, and it's like garbage, worthless content.
No,
this is actually really cool. This is really cool. Yeah.
In Shoot the Moon are the 5 lunar waves that I shot. I was apparently the first person to accidentally film it. When I filmed it in the fall, actually on the true fall equinox of 2012, everyone's saying, put up a YouTube, and I didn't want to. I was a webmaster at the time, and I knew social media was going places I didn't want to be part of. After a year, I said, okay, I'll put it up. So in October of 2013, I put up the first lunar wave, and within 30 days, the Flat Earth movement had exploded, and everyone was referencing the footage that I was shooting back then with my telescope. It was the epicenter that helped fuel that forward. Unfortunately, I have a rule not to join groups, and the Flat Earth movement is a prime example, because then you get infiltrated and all the problems follow, and people get more confused, which is unfortunate, because you have been lied about where you are. There is absolutely more land than you've been told of. You are not traveling faster than a 30-06 round. The sun is not the center of everything. We are. And why are we the center of everything? Because we're that damn important as spiritual beings. And if you want a closer example of what this place probably is, look up Tycho Brahe's solar system model, where the Earth is the center. And he did all that scant months before the first telescope was invented. By the way, all the work he did is the basis for all modern astronomy. Kepler stole his work. Copernicus stole his work. The only difference is Tycho Brahe spent his life observing. The other two guys never observed. They were mathematicians. They were wizards with math. And that's what we got.
Wow. That's super interesting. Did you ever go into we got into the Tartarian thing for a little bit and watched that get co-opted by a bunch of wackos. That's why I have mostly like a pretty agnostic position on these things that I used to call myself a flat earther, and I definitely don't anymore. And like
unless
the
you want to
Tartarian
inherit
stuff,
that, you don't want to inherit the beliefs of a group. You got to have your own mind.
Exactly.
If you join a group, you put a target on your back. If that group matters and does something that does matter, they will be infiltrated.
Yep.
Happened to me endlessly in that first year after the lunar wave. I had to change my telephone number. I became CROW. I changed my email address. I had to change everything because of the lunar wave. And it's being referenced by every flat earther everywhere.
Oh, I get it now. So now it makes sense. Makes a lot of sense now. So did you ever go into like the nukes are fake? Did you ever research nuclear bombs just being kind of boogeymen?
We did one of the earliest examples of that. I don't know. Were we there? I don't know. Rose probably knows. We did.
Yeah, I'm so offended.
One of the earliest versions of telling people nukes are fake is episode. We are the first.
Awesome.
I'm going to say so, but maybe someone will come. Well, Jason did the research for episode 53 in 2016. So if you learned about this after 2016, then we were before you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to everyone listening to this in the now and the future. But I would like to know, but it was, I guess the first person CROW would be Galen Windsor, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's a good point. The first time
internet podcast. We were the ones that put together an episode that went viral, episode 53.
The first time I ever mentioned it was in 2013, I think, before the podcast. But the first episode is what Rose is referencing.
Let me show this playlist, guys, if you could click to share my screen.
Yeah. Yeah, Galen Windsor's video is pretty rad. I have a little bit the actual video is a little sus to me. But the information, and then I went deep into researching him and if he was a real person. There really wasn't a lot of information about him on the internet, but he is an old guy, and I don't even know, is he even still alive?
Well, I had feelings the same way as you did, but the truth of what he said is the truth. They used to sell chemistry sets to kids with uranium in it. It's not... The problem is that, like, from an alchemical point of view, the things that they've outlawed and told you are deadly dangerous are critically important. And that's why they've done, because it gives you power and not power through weapons. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to show you.
Poppycock.
Okay, if you look at the bottom, the first episode was 53. And it wasn't about people like Galen Windsor. This was CROW's independent thoughts where he was putting together alchemical symbolism regarding Mary Curie.
Common sense, yeah.
And so a lot of that was talking about the alchemical transmutation of the human mind more than like scientific things. And then we revisited it again for episode 400, which I guess is just an updated version. So after episode 400, it was so amazing that one of our listeners contacted us. She's going under a pseudonym. So quote unquote May of episode 507, her mother and grandmother were at Nagasaki. Okay. So she is very close to the situation. And so we're not denying that radiation doesn't exist. We're talking about these huge events like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which were used for the purposes of social engineering. So then around the time that we had May on the show to discuss what her mother and grandmother experienced, a book written by Michael Palmer was released in 2022 called Hiroshima Revisited. And synchronistically, everything he described about what actually happened there is more well described by chemical warfare like mustard gas than quote nuclear radiation. So then we had Michael Palmer back for episode 570. So you've got the two classic CROW777 radio episode, Nuke Coke's episodes. Then you have the episode with May, who's a descendant of people that were actually there, and then the German scientist to confirm it. That's the free Nuke Coke's playlist that I have shared.
So
that's your first 5 shows?
Well,
Those
no,
are
that's 50. That's
Oh,
episode 50. But Rose, listening, she knows the material better than me or Jason. But when she started talking about episode 53, I'd forgotten it is based around the alchemical symbol Mercury. And the way that I came to comprehend what was going on, and you'll like this because you're a musician, is through the fraud Robert Johnson, who supposedly sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads. If you go listen to the song The Crossroads, the entire song is the encoding of Mercury. It is making up the BS story required to launch rock and roll. By the way, Robert Johnson's been quietly shuffled off. Now they're replacing him with a guy named Robert Patton, I think, who has 3 fingers or something like this. He was a slave. All the little things you need to buttress the onset of Tavistokian-driven rock and roll. But to get back to the point, in the song The Crossroad, the entire lyrics of the song are mercurial. They're just affecting your mind. You need to believe that someone went to the crossroad and sold their soul to the devil. I went down to the crossroad, dropped down on my knees. Well, tell me, Bob, why'd you drop on your knees? Because the winter solstice, or the low point, hell of the sun, is in Capricorn, which is represented by the knees. I looked north I looked east and west. Well, Bob, why didn't you look north and south? Because the path of the sun is east and west. Every line in Crossroad is the mercurial encoding of what has been translated out into the nuclear weapon psyop, which is what just allowed them to fake bomb or really bomb whatever happened in Iran just now, all based on the lie of nukes, because fear and trauma, which we were talking about, is what opens the door for psychological operations. Fear being the primary component of this era, which is not the age of information. If we had an age of information, it was about 2 or 3 years, maybe from 2017 back 3 or 4 years. There was your information age. It's why you don't hear about Sandy Hook anymore. Know why? Because it was so thoroughly ripped apart online, they can't. So they did all the fake lawsuits. But to get back to the point,
to rewrite
all
history.
The mercurial, and so that episode shows you how Mercury, which is mind, is being employed in an alchemical usage to affect everybody everywhere.
Dang,
crazy. But I think we stretched them longer than they wanted to go, Rose.
No. My podcast goes like 5 or 6 hours sometimes. I go pretty long. I just don't want to hold you guys.
We should play the opening of Shoot the Moon for them and then let them go. You guys want to see the opening of Shoot the Moon?
Definitely.
Can we pull that off, Rose?
Yeah. Well, all we have to do is share the screen to the website and then click on the movie. We could share.
Can you do it?
Yeah, I can do it right here.
If you share it out, we'll give you a sample of Shoot the Moon. 10 awards out in the world now.
You got Crow in a good mood. This is
great
material.
This is the website. If you're a member, you get all the stuff we do here as part of your membership. And we haven't raised the rates in years and years. It's $8 stinking. And we barely pay our bills.
All right. It's been so long now. I don't even know if I'm supposed to forward it or if we just play it from the beginning.
Just go.
Okay, here we go. I haven't watched this in so long.
I tied the branding into all this stuff that I've done online since the beginning.
Yeah, you got to fight with Jason about it. We were like, let's not make it like a YouTube video. I'm glad we did it this way. I am really glad that we put this part in at the beginning.
The orchestra's tuning.
This is like your commentary for the bonus features on the DVD Crow, so make it good.
Cue the kick drum, yo. We got a custom soundtrack from a friend of ours for this. Killer soundtrack.
That's the way to do it.
So this is my older telescope work, completely focused on the moon. Jason and Rose and I are about to start another film on solar work. So we'll have one on the moon and one on the sun. FOU, UFO. There's a ton of FOUs in this film. How about that audio, though? He did such a great job.
Nice.
That thing has 3 thrusters on it. Look like a little space capsule falling back in.
Oh, yeah, it's spinning.
Well, since the moon's not 250,000 miles away, it's a lot closer than most people think.
So are these craters we're looking at on the moon?
Not in my view.
Okay.
That's all a camouflage. In my view, the moon is a luminary. You can't walk on it. It's not rock and dirt. It's probably plasma, my best guess.
Okay. Always wondered why there would be craters facing the Earth on the moon, but if they're not craters.
No, because a real crater, they're all as if something came straight down. If you look at every one of them, and they're all the same depth. None of it makes sense.
They should be irregular for sure.
But
so all the people saying that we're seeing the reflection of the Earth and the moon are wrong.
The people who are working on the idea that there is a reflection on the moon, in my view, are thinking in a valuable way. Whether they're right or they're wrong, the way they're approaching this is spot on. If you look at any old text in this world from hundreds of years ago, you will hear things like, don't show me the moon or point to the moon in the sky. Show me light glinting on a piece of glass, or show me its reflection in a lake. But when you see the DreamWorks intro, they're showing you exactly what I just said. In the DreamWorks intro, there's a little boy fishing for souls sitting on the moon, but when he throws his bobber down, it hits the lake, and you realize you're not looking at the moon, you're looking at the reflection in the lake. So even DreamWorks is telling you the very same thing. So to say that those people are blowing it is wrong-headed, in my view.
I think that we need to take a moment to shill for field theory, because in this world of atomic theory, it's been very useful to humanity to help us survive and have technology. And we can observe things in the 3D realm and then explain it using atomic theory. But what is missing from atomic theory is the metaphysical realm, the spiritual divine that should not be denied. So when you start to look from the worldview of field theory, which involves the metaphysical realm and the divine and the bigger picture, that allows us the opportunity to maybe take this conversation about the reality that we exist in and the fabrics of how it works.
There it is. Hence, the little boy is fishing for souls. He's fishing. In other words, that's probably a hook you don't want to bite.
Okay. Anything else?
I go ahead, Rose.
There was just, I felt like that was a crappy example in the beginning because people couldn't see the UFOs up close, and it was beautiful of the moon, which is why after we were done, they were like, oh, okay, so are those craters? People should, if they really want to see the film, they have to log into the website, put it on Max on a big screen, and watch it on a big screen, because this is with technology from 2012. And, now, of course, there's a lot bigger scopes, and we'll be doing a different film. But I have a clip that if I play it from StreamYard, we can show the exploding chem bomb.
Okay.
If you want to see a close
You want to
up.
see the exploding chem bomb?
Yeah.
I witnessed it firsthand with my own eyes with my wife.
Okay, so this way we're going to end with a bang, and then maybe we can come back another time to
Yeah.
show more stuff.
Definitely. That would be awesome. I feel like to what you were saying earlier, what I got, the most value I got out of the flat earth and the Tartarian rabbit hole was that openness that these, the guys that think the reflection is in the moon, these, where their head's at. Like, I feel like that, whether or not I learned anything true or not, it opened me up to being way more open to it taught me to really question everything completely. The Tartarian thing kind of did too, but mostly got me more interested in like local history and stuff. I don't know. Reset history is very interesting.
His
learning
story
about how time gets reset and technology gets pushed back, and they reintroduce it to us in their favor. How many times that's happened to us, who knows?
It's happening now.
Yeah, it's probably constantly happening. Like Allie was talking about, the modernizing of the two-party paradigms and kind of shuffling around the political points from side to side. It's just like it's set up to be chaos. It's set up to be divisive, and that's not what we were put on this planet to be doing, being divisive.
Well, I think you guys touched on a good point earlier too, of just like the idea of not joining groups, because every movement gets co-opted. I think that's a very important thing people need to like understand.
Get to it, usually.
As soon as it matters.
Yeah. And that's kind of a good, for me, like a philosophy, just going through like the rabbit holes or just going through my studies, is that just like remembering that you can't get caught up in a group. Like that's always where people fall short and get caught up.
You want to hear something crazy? So before I ever put any of the stuff I had filmed online, I went to a MUFON meeting with my footage. When I got there, there was this really old dude running that MUFON branch, and he walks up to me because I was going to show some of my footage to the MUFON group just to see what they said. And he goes, there's an agent in this group, right? And I heard him and I didn't think much of it. We got in there and everything was like, all they did was go in and talk about UFOs, I guess, and trade books. And I had footage, but everything happened in a way that was prevented. So it was made so I would come back again. So I came back again with everything I brought with me to be able to show the footage. And this guy came out of the woodwork and did everything he could to ride me down, interrupt what I was showing, and then at the end of it all, act like we were friends and try to get the footage. And that was a tiny little MUFON meeting with 8 people in it. And there was a freaking agent there that apparently showed up every week just waiting for someone like me to show up. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Waiting for someone with some actual real shit to show up and be like, oh, shut it down.
How many meetings do you suppose that dude sat through before I showed up? I'm just saying, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it could have been years. Literally, it could be. I mean, it's like the sleeper cells.
They're all sleeping.
And no one in the group liked him. Like when he was being a dick and interrupting the whole time I was trying to show, he's all like trying to convince everyone it's satellites and all this stuff. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. It's like the using the
Saddaloons.
Yeah. Okay, I have it ready if you guys want to see the exploding cub. So
let's go out with a bang.
Obviously not an interdimensional space alien coming to save us from the chemtrails. To me, this is made Black Ops technology that was probably coming from what, like Camp Pendleton, Crow, if I was going to pick.
Me and my wife are reasonably sure we had gone 3 days without chemtrails, which was unusual because they were nonstop. The second plane through dropped this, and it was over a endless houses, and it blew up, and there's a tracking device in it that fell to the ground. I'm sure that it probably said, if you find this, call this number, and they go collect it and get their data. But the amount of crap that comes out of this thing raining down on mile after mile of those houses just blew my mind.
And this is not even in the movie. This is a very special raw footage clip. So you get to hear how they react. You get to hear the words that they use. And
we thought it was an orb.
Yeah.
We thought it was an orb when we first spotted it.
Oh my God, honey. Keep a visual on him.
Looks like a weather balloon.
Hold on, I don't know where he's at.
He's below the chemtrail.
Yeah. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Keep a visual on him, because if he hauls butt, I won't be able to track him.
I'm trying to track by hand with a telescope.
What is
that's
he
not
doing?
made for
Oh,
tracking.
okay, because it's moving fast.
Right. So I'm just doing this by hand.
Can you see flames?
Looking at a
Is it
3-inch
on?
No.
LCD screen.
Is it a balloon?
No, it's a pure white light. Okay, I'll take that. Yeah.
That's why I thought it looked like a weather balloon.
Well, we've been filming.
my God.
Holy what?
Don't lose him.
What?
It blew-
I have
Blew up in the
goosebumps
blood.
right now.
I don't know.
Dang it, I had to move my eyes.
I've
What
got
is
the whole
that?
film.
Wow.
Now there's a little one.
There's a little red blinking device with an antenna that came
They're
out.
dropping these.
Yeah, there's a YouTube video about the red blinking device that people can contact me
It
for.
freaking blew.
What?
Like a powder thing? Stop.
Yeah, it's leaving a trail of chemical up there, but there's still a core.
Yeah, you can see it's like a trail.
I tracked the wrong thing. The lower thing is the tracking device. That's part of the container that I think is something. But it's the thing to the extreme left is the actual device with the antenna.
Here comes. Now, right above.
I can't.
Okay.
I'm tracking this thing. I'm still got the
Here
debris.
comes the plane hauling ass.
I got the debris from the explosion. It freaking blew up.
What?
Well, I don't know what blows that mean, honey.
It means it blew apart into a million pieces.
It popped.
And there's still some falling on us.
What?
The telescope
What?
sounds like it's farting. What is that sound? What is that noise, Crow?
We were surrounded, like that's our little dog yelling, but we were surrounded by animals, birds, and everything on every side. It was the noisiest house we ever lived at.
No, something was going. I can't never figure out what that noise is.
It's a bird.
So we live obviously near Vandenberg, right?
Yep.
So we see launching whatever they're doing every couple weeks.
Film.
And I asked my dad used to work at Vandenberg as a paramedic, and I asked him, I was like, do these launches we have now look like the launches you used to have? And he was like, no way, not at all. Because like I've seen at least a dozen of them now, and it's like this weird spiral thing, but then there's this red blinking light following it always in right behind it, like in the whatever trails that are coming off of whatever the spiral thing is. There's always this red blinking light following whatever the rocket is.
SpaceX, right?
Yeah, it's SpaceX.
Okay.
Mostly what we're watching, but there's always this red blinking light it's like a chase vehicle or something that's following.
Should film.
And they
those.
always just fly them right down the California coast, so everyone sees it.
Yep.
Big SpaceX advertisement, massive brainwashing event, millions and millions of people looking up, filming it, putting it on the internet,
And the amount of
validating.
debris, like those debris clouds. What's in that? That's
What
falling
is
back
it?
down. It's like
Yeah.
massive. But in Shoot the Moon, which we didn't even include that clip there. We in Shoot the Moon, like we thought that was an orb. Years ago, whenever chemtrails showed up, these little white orbs, never saw them when there weren't chemtrails. Well, one day we saw them with our eyes. I filmed it. It drops down into the chemtrail and shoots a freaking plasma beam twice. And I filmed it. It's in the film. So when I posted that footage, we never saw them like almost ever again with our naked eyes. And we used to see them all the time. And I've got tons of footage of us filming the orbs. Also in the film, I had two cameras, one that was full spectrum, one that was visual spectrum, and some invisible craft leaves a vortex that can only be seen in infrared. And the visual camera doesn't pick it up, but there's endless things in Shoot the Moon in that film that you guys got to see.
Wow. But, I wanted Allie, I just because Allie, you were talking about how they're always waiting around for something good to come around. That just seems like that was what was happening back in 2014 before the censorship really ramped up in 2017. It was right after the plasma shooting orb that I started seeing an increase of people making YouTube videos that the Pleiadians or like the Galactic Federation are coming to save us, and that's and using CROW's footage to support that without CROW's knowledge or consent or input, things like that. So people do steal his footage, and I think it was a History Channel that even wanted an opportunity to buy his footage.
It was Prometheus, the production company called Prometheus on the History Channel, and this dude wants me to be the host of a new TV show, and well, it happened twice. The first time they want me to be the host of a TV show, and so for chucks and giggles, I said, let me see the contract. He sent me this thing that was more offensive than anything I read, and I said to the dude, no real researcher in the world would ever sign something like this. And he looked at he says to me, that's not even the real contract. That's just the one where you come up and do the screen test. And I laughed in his face. Well, a few months later, they called back wanting to buy rights to my footage, but they didn't want the lunar wave. All they wanted was the UFO looking things that I'd filmed. They didn't want the UFO. And I said, go pack sands, guys. Lose my number. I do research, and I'm not going to be associated with your clown show.
Yeah, they wanted your content to push the bullshit. You're like, nah, I don't think so.
No. They offer you so much a second, but I realized as I looked at what they were claiming, that what they do is they pay for a few seconds and then they edit it out and play it over and over, the way they do on TV. So they pay less than $100 for 10 minutes of your work, which is only 2 clips or something. It's just never going to happen. Sorry.
Yeah.
The guys go, well, you want to be wealthy, don't you? You know what it means to
who cares?
We're putting a whole show together around you. And I said, no, you're not. One of the things in that contract, which he tells me is just to come up and do a screen test, is that they have the right to contact anyone you've known and do a background investigation on them.
What? Whoa, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yo, bro, I don't show my face on the internet. That's crazy.
Don't sign the contract, CROW.
No,
I don't want them researching me and then associating with you.
Don't do it.
That's wild. So, I guess the title of the show was Anarchist Communities. What does an anarchist love-based community look to you guys?
It's a group that will be infiltrated if they ever do anything that matters. And the change that you have control of is yourself. If you want to be honest, if you're married and you have children, you might be able to influence your wife to some degree, probably a little more for your children. But at the end of the day, you have control of you. And if you join up with other people and form a group called Anarchists of America or whatever it might be, if they do anything that matters, it will be infiltrated. But to be a member of that group, you will be expected to hold the beliefs of that group, which is one of the places where Flat Earth went wrong. Look what just happened there. Whole thing imploded because one member bit the hook.
Yeah.
Unbelievable what goes
Darrenism. Jarenism went to Antarctica, just
But
fell into like a
but
dumbass.
I like Jaron. I like Jaron. I'm friends with Jaron, and I'm glad that he went to Antarctica and that he came back and said what he saw. And I don't
He's
think
honest. I mean, I don't think you can take that away from
But
him.
the
But
point
my
is-
problem is the
yeah,
amount of damage that was done to that group, the division. In this time that we are in now, the worst sin among the worst sins you can commit, in my point of view, is to cause division or hatred. If you take part in that, you are doing more damage than almost anything else I can think of.
yeah. You see, the problem isn't Jaron going to Antarctica as much as that Jaron didn't listen to you in 2015 when you said, "Don't call yourself a flat earther." That was the cardinal.
He showed up. I forget how he contacted me, but he was brand new with the flat earth movement, all referencing my work. He wanted to do something with me. I politely declined, and I offered him one piece of advice: don't join groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then 10 years later, he finds out that the thing that he was teaching for 10 years was incorrect. His model, his belief, something that he influenced. And so then he had to do a flip, and it became political, it became drama, and it became something for content creation. And it was exactly what a social engineer would have wanted, whether organic or planned. The outcome is the problem, and
the best they could have hoped for.
Group. Yeah,
had they planned 10 years, they couldn't have got a better outcome.
Yep, it's true.
The herd failed the litmus test, just like cough cough. The herd failed the litmus test for stupidity overall in general.
Yeah,
there were some smart people, not to quote Mark Passio, but I'm not trying to make overwhelming blanket statements, but the overwhelming majority of people fall for these litmus tests that they pull off.
So let me offer this in closing. How about this? One of the most important things is to be an adult in charge of yourself and to get back to using and having an intuition and using and having common sense. One of the very first casualties of this era has been common sense. So this is what I recommend. Go sit somewhere, get calm, have a glass of tea, go outside calmly, look all around at your environment, shut your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and imagine in your mind that everything you've been told about this world is true. You're on a spinning ball. It's spinning around the sun faster than a rifle bullet. That whole conglomeration is spinning around a galaxy many times faster than a rifle bullet. Memorize and imagine everything you have been told is true about this place. Then go inside for about an hour, do whatever, then do the same thing again. Sit down, calm down, go back outside, take a few deep breaths, shut your eyes, and imagine you are stationary, firm, unmoving, and just imagine that. And whatever your intuition and your senses tell you, you should take to heart as something to be considered valuable information you can build on, whichever way that goes. For me, it all started when the flat earth started and everyone started emailing me. Well, Crow, are we on a ball? Are we on, and I was like, I don't know anything more than anyone else does, except I've been working with my telescope. Yeah. I went out to the desert and I filmed farther than we're supposed to be able to see. And on the way home, I realized with all the conundrum that the footage I put out had caused, I got home, I deleted that footage, and I never talked about it.
Oh, shit.
Because I didn't want any more. I had just changed all my information. My phone, even after I changed my number, people were calling, claiming they were ex-NASA people. It was ridiculous, the amount. This went on for a couple of years. So what I can tell you is when I realized I can't look this up, I got to do a mind experiment to work out, to start a foundation. When I did that, I left the spin cycle. And for the first time in my life, I made decisions from a stationary point of view. But that's all I can offer you. You have to have intuition and common sense, and you've got to hear that small, still voice and begin to nurture it. because if you ignore it, it's like a muscle and it atrophies. If you bolster it, it's like a muscle and it gets stronger. And that intuition is invaluable to life. In most situations, within a few vowels or a sentence or two, I already have a pretty good idea of whether I'm listening to poppycock and I should just bail, or whether maybe there's something of value here. Not always, but a good amount of time. That's all based in intuition. So if you do this and you listen to your small, still voice, maybe that's a foundation you can build on without depending on what some group wants to tell you the map looks like that they have no way to know.
Yeah. Hell
There's
yeah.
no map. There's no current map that equals another map. All the maps that you look at are not equivalent to each other.
Which means they're all wrong.
Yeah.
Map's not the destination.
Wow.
There it is. That's what I can offer you guys.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm glad. I was a little worried, but I'm glad we're on the same page on all this stuff, because on the internet it says you're like the king flat earther.
That's so
I don't join groups. Those are
I know.
labels that people put on me.
Yeah.
What I
definitely
believe,
is.
what I actually accept in my heart is between me and the creator, and it doesn't show up on the podcast. It's mine.
Yeah. Word. It's exactly. I absolutely agree. Well, cool guys. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was super fun. I'd love to do it again. Definitely going to check out more of your stuff. If you want to
Shoot the Moon.
shout out your channel again.
So everything I do, there is social media for CROW777, but the only reason it's there is to be an advertising billboard to point you to my private server where we have free speech.
That's 100%
of the time. That is CROW, CROW77radio.com. CROW777radio.com. And as a member, you get free access to everything we talked about and showed. But most importantly, you get Shoot the Moon for free, but you get exclusive access to my current solar telescope. And we will be starting shortly on a film like Shoot the Moon, but it's all around the sun and human consciousness, which is directly influenced by the sun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see it. Thanks for hooking this up, Rose.
My pleasure.
You should check out me and Rose's interview we had together a couple weeks ago. Awesome interview.
On your platform?
It's on YouTube. But YouTube, my YouTube is at Jeffrey Phillips. YouTube at Jeffrey Phillips.
I'm there right now, actually watching.
Awesome. Well, yeah, awesome guys. Nice meeting you. And hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to wish you all a happy, healthy, and higher-minded new era. Cheers, guys. I'll see you.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Peace.